Schenectady City Council Committee meeting for Monday, March 18th, 2024. We have 3 presentations this evening, and so I would like to start with the Electric City Co-op. And whoever's presenting, please come here. We have a microphone for you.
All right.
And you have handouts for us.
I do.
Apparently, okay. Well, you can just give me the books.
Okay. Alexandra Carver said I emailed her a presentation. Is it possible that we could get that? Okay. If not, that is okay, because I've got it printed out in front of me.
Okay. You can.
But I will need one of those copies.
Sure.
Thanks very much.
Can you put this across, please? Sure.
Is this hot?
Yeah.
That's the people at home.
It should be
television.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, great. All right, Honorable Mayor, members of the City Council, distinguished staff, I just want to introduce myself. My name is Eric Johnson. I'm the president of the Electric City Food Co-op. We're doing business as the Electric City Community Grocery. We were awarded a grant from ARPA for $1 million in support of our cooperative grocery startup in downtown Schenectady. First, I just want to say how much gratitude our group brings to this governing body and how thankful we are for your support. It's meant a lot to have your support, and it's really lifted our sails. I'd also just like to say that we've made a great deal of progress since being awarded this proposal, and would just like to just begin with the positive gratitude that we have for this group, and we'll get right into it. I do also just want to say I recently had eye surgery, so I was sort of counting on this presentation to be online, but I'll work through this. What we've done is we've sent a letter requesting an extension for our ARPA award with the city. Our award expired on March 12th this year, and what we're requesting is a extension for 6 months to that time, so that we can work with our partners to secure our location and deliver downtown grocery to the city of Schenectady. Our mission from the very beginning has been to deliver a grocery store to downtown Schenectady. That is our focus. So when it comes to conversations about other places, our primary focus is delivering that grocery to downtown Schenectady. And then once we're through with that, we can obviously look at other opportunities. I just want to draw your attention to the third slide. It's got these logos right here. So what we have in this third slide is three federal, state, and local solution or plans that were developed. On the left, you have the ARPA federal law, which was passed, right, and pumped a ton of money into the economy during COVID. We've got the Downtown Redevelopment Initiative, or DRI, which identified a need for a grocer in downtown Schenectady to complement the current blend of economic balance. And then the City of Schenectady 2020 plan that was approved in 2008, which set a planning initiative to do perform analysis for a downtown grocery store and to move that forward. The next slide covers that we just are identified as a food desert in Schenectady. Food desert is an interesting term defined by the federal government, but in fact it's really what I define as food apartheid, because it is a structural, implemented way in which there is a scarcity of availability of healthy foods for certain zip codes based on decisions of planners of the past. And, the way that we can solve that is through food sovereignty. So the Electric City Food Co-op is not going to solve the problem. The Electric City Food alone, the Electric City Food Co-op is part of the mix. On the right side of this slide, which is slide 4, it represents the Schenectady City Food Council, which includes Sikkim, the Green Market, Schenectady School District, Farm School, Tech Valley Shuttles, the City Mission, the Cornell Extension, us, and a total of 30+ organizations that are working together with the Schenectady Foundation to further food policy and the challenges within the food space. Okay, great. I'll put this down. If you could go to the next slide, please. So it's quite easy to think like our organization's been around for 10 years now. We incorporated in 2013, and it would be easy to conclude that we're not making progress. I want to just point out this graph. You see that we made steady progress up until the pandemic, and then we flatlined. The pandemic is represented on the red rectangle, and you'll see as the official end of the pandemic, by that time, obviously people were moving around, but we were having explosive growth. At that point, we went from 465 members through 1,000 at the end of this year. We're up to 1,035 right now. And part of the way that we were able to invigorate the community was through the public funding that we had. We were able to price our membership from $200 to $25. What this did was it made it more accessible to our community. We had a more diverse population that was able to join. In fact, we were able to gather and raise funds to provide solidarity memberships for those that are unable to provide the $25. We were able to supplement their membership. So we continue to grow, a lot of enthusiasm within the community, and we're at the point now, if you notice the diagram on your right-hand side, we have paid for market studies, we've done our pro forma, our business plan, we've exceeded our membership goals to where we can kind of move out of our planning stage, and we've been engaged with Metroplex, and we are getting ready to sign a site contract with NCG, who is our implementation partner, which I'll go to in a few more slides. So if we go to the next slide, please. I just want to reflect on some of our board members. Pretty great group of people. We meet every week to further it. We have 4 active subcommittees within this board. The people that are circled with a light green color are all new within the last year. And I just want to highlight that within this group of board members, we have people that have deep experience within the grocery business, both Price Chopper and cooperative groceries. People who have experience on boards of directors of co-ops. We've got finance people, we've got accountants, we've got food manufacturers, we've got bakers, and just general downtown boosters. So these are the people from your community, our community, that are invigorated and involved and are looking to get this project done. Building back to better together. And so on the next slide, just want to cover National Cooperative Grocers. So you can kind of think of this as like it's a chain for independent grocers. They have a professional services line that is in the business of starting up cooperative grocery stores around the country. In fact, they're starting up 6 in the first half of this year. So they're on pace of doing about 1 per month. Just right now, they've got 230 stores in 39 states, and their total spend is $2.5 billion annually. So we get a lot of buying advantages by working with the National Cooperative Grocers. They've got a product line which is an affordable product line. There's often an association with cooperatives that cooperatives are expensive, I'm never going to be able to afford it. Oh, thank you so much. And cooperatives can be expensive, but it's our goal to provide staples that are affordable to our community. That's imperative for our business model. And also provide options for, with local farmers, which might be at a higher price point. So, we've got lots of examples, and like I said, the 1.3 million customer owners are reflected there. They've got contracts with semi trucks to move food in. So we'll be using them for food supply. They'll help us with the final store design, HR, payroll, finance, point of sale, through store opening, through stabilization. So the dream team can't be beat. So it's kind of a funny play there. But we've got the Electric City Food Co-op, the National Co-op Grocers, and obviously you all, who we're so thankful for, in Schenectady County, and of course the Metroplex. And Dave or Scott, I don't know if there's anything that you wanted to add or wait for questions.
Scott Seatek, Metroplex.
Gonna be on camera.
Okay. Scott Seatek, Metroplex. Thank you for letting us be here today. Eric and his team have been really working extremely hard at trying to make this a reality. I can remember back to the late 90s, not having anything close to having a grocer downtown, outside of Eastern Avenue, Price Chopper. And so this has been a long time coming. There's a lot of momentum being had right now. We're almost at the finish line. There's a couple locations and a couple developers they're working with. I can't disclose either location and or developers because we signed NDAs, non-disclosure agreements. But I will say that with a little more time, I think we can pull this off. With the bank environment right now, interest rates are a little bit higher. We all thought the rates would start coming down a little bit. I think that they will as we get towards summertime. That's kind of affecting some of the pricing strategies. But I do think that given a little bit more time here, I think that they can execute this plan. They're doing all the right things, and anything that you can do to extend this a little bit would be much appreciated. And we do appreciate it. Thank you.
Thanks, Scott. Yeah, you should bet. Okay, this next slide is a screenshot from our new website, which was just released over the weekend, which we're excited about, but that's not the main point. The main point is what's in it for the community as you, I'm sorry, it's the slide with the, that one right there. So what are we bringing to the community? You see expanded access to local foods, and local, supporting local grocers, producers, and artisans. Keep your dollars local. Create local jobs. Our estimate is $154,000 monthly payroll. Cultivate thriving communities, root systems, give classes, culinary classes, how to sharpen knives, how to do the things that some of our traditions have forgotten as far as cooking together and eating together, participate in the governance of a cooperative organization, and connect with communities. So it's just important to think that this is a really great way for us to develop our community and expand the civic engagement here in Schenectady. Like Scott said, and thanks for that, Scott, we're working with Metroplex to sign an agreement to occupy a space and a lease agreement. As he said, he can't disclose the location or the developer, and as of Tuesday last week when our deadline came through, we did not have that deal done. And that, as we all know, negotiations sometimes take a little bit of time, right? They're not always easy, and so this negotiation is taking a little bit of time. Just to close, a vote of no of an extension for us gives you plenty of time to reallocate funds for other priorities that you have. The risk is, as our team sees it, is that you're missing really a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to bring a grocery store to downtown. the private sector alone isn't going to do this. It doesn't work for them. And so if we miss this opportunity, we're going to be waiting a long time to get a downtown grocery. And, we've got a good leadership team, we've got robust participation. People are lit up about participating in this and just excited to support one another. And that's something that we all like to see in our community. So I think from that perspective, it would be a challenge for us to not see this extension. Voting yes on a 6-month extension would align with ARPA, DRI, and Vision 2020. It would improve food access and equity. It would catalyze local and regional food opportunities and encourage citizens to participate in the democratic process within the food system itself. The downside or risk, you might say, is that 6-month extension would allow you only 14 weeks to reallocate those funds by the time that you must have those committed, which I believe is December 31st of this year. And the other downside is other grantees would have to essentially wait in the wings while they're while we're sorting out on things. It's not our intention to use the full 6 months. These negotiations do take time, and unfortunately, Eric and the co-op team don't always get a seat right at the front of the table, because a lot of these negotiations are between Metroplex, the county, and the developers. So we've been, I think Scott knows, very encouraging of this process moving along a lot faster, but these negotiations do just take some time. Just a few supplemental slides. So from the DRI, I just want to note that the DRI report of 2020 noted that there was a lack or void of neighborhood goods and services in the downtown area. So that is one of the 3 important ingredients to a healthy economy. And without a healthy triumvirate of those 3 areas, you won't have people coming down and staying downtown to spend their dollars. And that's been identified and reinforced as a problem, a systematic problem with downtown Schenectady. And it's why we have a hard time keeping and attracting shoppers in the downtown area. And I think this next slide shows that if we're able to at least partially solve that problem by bringing goods and services downtown, neighborhood goods and services, then we get just more walkability, more people spending more money downtown, more action downtown. The restaurants will benefit, other stores will benefit, so I think that that's just an important thing. And then lastly, I just want to say that I'm not sure that co-ops are familiar to everybody, but we're a cooperative. One of the other organizations here is a cooperative organization, and what we know about cooperatives is that it's a way to lift one another up in economic development by supporting one another and teaming together to make solutions where otherwise solutions won't be available. So that's really all I have to present to the council and the mayor, and I'd like to thank you. If there's any questions, be more than happy to answer this.
All right, so I'm going to start. So the site control, the only thing that you're really waiting for in terms of being able to move forward with this project?
Site control is where is the one limiting factor, yes.
All right. And you said you wanted 6 months.
Yes.
So, but you pointed out yourself that we only have 14 weeks to reallocate funds, although I think the city could figure that out, Anthony, right? So let's say we just can't get to 6 months. What could be reasonably?
Sure. Great question. So a reasonable compromise would be splitting the difference, but 3 months really won't get us what we need. So, you say like Eric's asking for 6 months, let's get him 3 months. The clock's already ticking, we're 1 week into it. And so from my perspective, 3 months is a very risky proposition. To me, and I've thought a lot about this, 5 months is about where we could land and still either no, this deal is gonna happen and we're gonna get it done, or no, this isn't, and we've given it a valiant effort, and, you know, we'll either continue without the funds, or we'll go on our merry ways.
Right, so I do, you know, I think I already said this to you, but if we, whatever time limit we give, and, you know, we're not gonna be unreasonable, once we get there, and if you're not able to do that, then we would have no choice but to rescind the funds, because we are facing that deadline. It's not because we want to, but we are facing a deadline with the federal government, and we have to meet that deadline, or we could then conceivably lose funds, and we certainly don't want to do that, so.
Like I started off, we're very grateful and full of gratitude for this grant, and totally understand where you are. So, yeah, we're meeting where you are. So.
All right. Other questions for council members? Mr. Williams?
Just as a point of clarity, and thank you for this presentation. I think it was very apparent that you built it with an understanding of working collaboratively and together, and I think that was one of the common themes that just very much stood out to me. Just wanted to get a clarification from Councilwoman Porterfield's point. It's apparent that the biggest obstacle is the getting site control. However, you alluded that there were other elements also. That 5 months, does that fully address the site control issue, or is that to fully address all outstanding issues?
So, yeah, so where we're at right now is we've submitted our affidavits, our policies, our org structure, like we've submitted everything to you guys. We have one gap with insurance, which is you can't have insurance without a site, and we just have a PO box right now. So we talked with Ms. Carver about that. There is the question of a $5.7 million match, and we do not currently have that. So we've got a commitment from the county for $3 million. The situation is a little bit different right now because previously when we applied for the grant, the idea was to buy a building. So that with some of these projects, they're much bigger projects. And so we would be a tenant with that and paying for a portion of the build out through our grant funds. So to specifically answer your question, I think we look for some accommodations with the matching of 5.7.
Anybody else?
Thank you.
Mr. Yes,
So
Mr.
just to
David.
follow up on that, your matching of 5.7, is that secure or in the process of being secure?
So it's not secured. It's our request was to have contributions from our developer, right? So that would be for a few million. We've got the county for $3 million. And I think actually what we'd like to request is a reduction in that 5.7 to something lower than that.
The matching amount from the county and the city?
I think we could do a little bit more than that, but that would be ideal, $4 million. Yeah, so $3 million matching to the $1 million.
So overall, what is the estimated cost of this project?
So again, that depends on the particulars of the development. But right now we're looking at, I mean, one developer is it possible that I could just give you some numbers afterwards? I mean, I can give you estimates.
Estimates, yeah.
Okay.
I'm just looking for estimates.
Yeah, so right now, it's like 4.5 to, I'd say 5.8 would be the total project all-in cost.
Mr. Farrell?
Yeah, I just wanted to.
Oh, I'm sorry,
No,
Mr. Rivera, did I finish?
It was done.
No, sorry, yeah, so I'm looking at the numbers here, so you say, let's go to high end 5.8.
Yeah.
This is estimated numbers.
Yeah.
So you're looking at the secure money already from the city and county, $4 million.
Yep.
So you're looking at $1.8 million out.
Yeah.
Additional funding.
Yeah, so that's right. So we'll need to make that up through commitments from the developer. That's one, and then loans.
Okay.
The loans will be a combination of member loans, like community loans, and then development, like there's cooperative startup capital funds that give out loans. And it is also hard to get a loan when you don't have any collateral, right?
You mentioned in your presentation that you're at a point where to secure this lease agreement. So do you think that at that point where you're right now to secure the lease agreement is going to take you 5 months to get that done?
I hope so. I mean, if we don't have that, maybe I'd ask Scott to answer that.
Yeah.
Come on up.
Come on up.
Get used to these rules. Typically, when you get to this part of the game, you typically will sign up with what's called an LOI, which is letter of intent. That just basic business tenants, rate, term, some other major things. Then you get into the lease, a document itself. From timing perspective, and again, this is if we agree today, we have a deal, you're probably looking at, anywhere from 30 to 60 days just to complete that task if we had the site already identified, worked the math out. Since we kind of have two sites that we're working through, we don't have the final numbers yet, so it's probably going to be more 3 to 4 months. When once you kind of get to that point. So asking for 5 is great, but I do think we're somewhat close to pulling this together, and we do need some time. So it's not like we're going to do this. Legal documents you have to finalize and make sure that everyone's comfortable with the terms and conditions of the lease, and that does take a little bit of time back and forth. So hopefully that answers the question. So. Okay. Thank you.
Mr. Farley, you have a question?
So, more of a statement too. So, number one, I want to kind of just highlight some of the things that you talked about as far as growing membership. So this is clearly a project that's really about, it's not lost on us that it's about accessibility. And once you were able to secure funds where you didn't have to charge people such a high amount, more people had, that created and opened up access for people to join. And I think that is really what we're talking about this project, overall, is that with access to quality food, people care about what they eat, but right now the limited options that are presented kind of don't decrease the likelihood of them having a healthy food option. So I think that it's really important that we just kind of recognize the fact that as soon as we increase access to people to be a part of this, they were a part of this, and I would just safely assume that would be the response from the larger community, that if we presented for people that they would support it. I also like the fact that you have some board members with some pretty extensive experience with grocery stores, and could you talk a little bit about that and what their experience are?
Sure, yeah. And I would say, just to respond to your first point, we fully expect our membership to really skyrocket once we continue to skyrocket once we enact this. And I just want to say that there's no requirement to be a member to shop at this grocery store, so I just want to be very clear there. So Rick Mozart, who's right over there, this handsome-looking gentleman, he has 30 years experience fitting up price choppers for Golub Corporation. So he's the guy that would go in and optimize price choppers, set them up, make sure that the insides, the guts, the operations were just as they should be. So he was one of Mr. Golub's right-hand lieutenants. And then after that, he broke away and worked for Honest Weight Food Co-op, which is a food co-op 60 plus years old in Albany, was general manager for 5 years. And then we've got a gentleman named Alex Malika who is worked at Honest Weight as well, and he's since taken a job with National Cooperative Grocers in their consulting team. He won't be on our project because it would be sort of a conflict of interest, but he's out helping co-ops all around the country, those 230 co-op grocery stores that I talked about, in order for them to make the most of their co-op, right? Because this organization, it gives marketing help, HR help, legal help, operations help, point of sale help, IT help, and all that. So those are the two guys. And then I have been involved with food co-ops. I lived in Denver before here. I was involved in one food co-op that got turned upside down because the real estate got too valuable, so we didn't get a chance to open a store. So the dirt got to be too valuable. We weren't able to open. I was on a board of another co-op that had a mix of a nonprofit and a for-profit model, so we were able to do a lot of more community-oriented activities. So I've been around cutting my teeth with the co-op space for a while as well.
Okay, one more question. So also, obviously this project is about accessibility and equity, and could you talk a little bit about maybe what the value system around hiring people from the neighborhood, as section 3 workers as they're usually described, and people, minority and women. Like, can you talk a little bit about what the ideology is of the group into this project?
Yeah, so we're gonna have about 38 to 45 full-time employees on opening. And we haven't set any specific policies about that, but we want the makeup of our store to be the makeup of our community. So without getting into too many details, we want it to reflect our community itself.
Thank you.
Any other questions, comments? Well, thank you for coming, and thank you for all the hard work. I know it's been years of work, and you never could drop the ball on it.
Thank you so much, everybody. I really
Appreciate
appreciate
it.
your time.
And we'll discuss this in our committee.
Okay.
Thank you very much
Thank
for
you.
coming. Okay.
Good evening, Mayor, Madam President, City Council. I apologize for my tardiness. We had an unforeseen fire and development, so I do apologize for that. Next, we have our Miracle on Craig project, which is we now today have presenting before us the Hamilton Hill Cooperative Association, which is made up of some community service providers that are vested in keeping the Miracle on Craig project in the hands of the community. And they are presenting today, asking us to reimagine what that family center will be. So today we have Brother Johan Matthews, who will be presenting on behalf of the co-op.
Thank you, everybody. I'm gonna pass on. Yeah. We have a printed version of, should be enough for everybody at the table.
You need one more? One more from Sean? You need one more? Or no?
Carl and I can.
He's good, he said. He's good? All right.
All right.
All right, now we're on. There we go, copy.
Excellent. So, thank you for having us. My name is Johan Matthews, here to speak on behalf of the Hamilton Hill Community Cooperative. So, we're distinct from MOC. We saw their efforts, we're inspired, we were hoping to get involved once it was completed, but that leg of the journey has been completed, and so we're here now looking what's going to happen moving forward now that this building's been returned, and we know the community still needs this service. So before we go into who we are as a Hamilton Hill Community Cooperative and this project idea, reimagining that space in order to provide services as the Carver Family Community Center, I'd like to introduce you to Janet. So this is Janet. She's a Hamilton Hill resident, been there her whole life, and she is well loved by the community, great energy, better smile, people love her, and she works part-time at Marshall's. She doesn't have full-time hours. She's been wanting it for a while, and she's going to school in the evening to be a nurse. All right, but lately she's been anxious. In fact, she's expecting. And she's expecting and anxious because this is not her first child, right? Meet Lamar. This is her first son. This individual is energetic like his mother, loves to draw, just an awesome little kid, but he spends most of his evenings at home playing video games while his mother has to run to the school, run to her job. He's doing his thing at home, exploring the world through video games at home, right? And she's also nervous about that. But she's more nervous because his dad is not in the picture, right? Nice young guy, Lavelle, but he's not there, right? They were young when they had him. That passionate romance allowed, that passionate relationship allowed romance, but it also allowed a lot of arguments. So Lamar spends his time at home with Grandma Joanne right here. Moved to Hamilton Hill in the 90s from the city for her family so that they can have a second chance, right? She's watched the community transform over the last 20 years, 30 years, and she's watched her family grow up, watching little Lamar from a baby until now. Now meet little Joelle, right? That's who Grandma spends her days watching, They're waiting on a preschool or daycare waiting list to open up so she can get in there. But right now, grandma's watching her. All right? And that's Stacy above grandma. She's the heart of the family. She works as a medical billing specialist. She dreams of having a cookie company, so instead of dealing with cavities, she'll cause them. But she doesn't know how to start a business, how to deal with money. That's Unc. That's Grandma Joanne's only son. He just came home a few years ago, and he is known as the Wizard because he's a local chess grandmaster, right? So he loves to spend his days in the barbershop playing chess, dropping pearls, studying philosophy. But he can't get a job, right? Everyone sees his character today. He's on his best behavior, but employers won't let him live down his worst behavior. So look at this family. This is a typical family in Hampton Hill. Now I'd like to introduce their lifeline. This is your kind of highly efficient nonprofit service provider providing very efficiently needed services like food, right? Local community members donate it. They catch a cab, have a ride come. They go out to their community. They live in Hampton Hill, but they leave and go get this food from this pantry. They need this food, these services, and when they go there, they feel as though they're getting some of what they need, but they have to give so much. They have to wait in line, wait behind a glass, tell their life story, victimize themselves. It's kind of a poor experience. Though they need help, they don't feel needy, right? Now I'd like to introduce the Carver Family Resource Center, right? So this is the vision that we're here to share. This is a multi-stakeholder membership organization. We've got 1,000 community member owners who walk in this building like they own it, because literally they do. And that's how they treat it. Whether they're there for services around food or housing or daycare, they are treated like they belong. We also have investor members. These are institutional investors like the Schenectady Foundation or possibly the city, who serve as a foundation for this initiative. They've designed and seeded a trust that provides income for the operations of this center in perpetuity. So they've seeded a fund, and that fund is in the trust, and every year it gives out dividends to support this activity, overall covering the costs within the first 5 to 7 years. We've also got the service provider members, many of which are assembled in this room, but they're in this case 10 members, and they all have the resources they need to serve the Hampton Hill families. So this is an ecosystem of family-centered services right in the heart of Hampton Hill, right in the heart of the Craig Main connection. So when we look at this picture, we see Janet, who now has maternal care, like a doula, to help her ease those anxieties she feels about being a mother again, right? We've also got community father, who can provide support groups and domestic violence training and anger management training to help Lavelle get back into the picture. We've got after-school program for little Lamar, who can come and leverage his love for drawing, maybe become the next Marshall Jones of Schenectady, right? Provided by the Art Center. We've got little Joelle, who is not gonna be on that waiting list for preschool anymore. She's gonna be in Sprouts Daycare. We're gonna have a daycare on site. And for Aunt Stacy, she's gonna learn how to start a business and manage her finances. From Ewing to the Economic Empowerment Center, we're gonna have those resources to teach her about financial literacy, as well as how to start a business. And for Unc, not only could he serve as a coach and mentor for many of the youth programs we'll have, Ring of Hope Boxing or Electric Swarm, he can also get workforce development support. Learn to start a business, learn to build his trades. And for grandma, instead of spending all her time taking care of others, we have a food prep service providing healthy, fresh meals for her, okay? So she can get off medication. So we literally have an ecosystem of services for the mothers who are expecting babies to the grandmas who've raised them. That's what we're looking at. So where are we now? Well, as I mentioned, we've established 10 service providers. These are homegrown institutions that came out of the soil of Schenectady, and they're here to support the people who already support them, already get support from them, right? So that's Community Fathers, the Hamilton Hill Arts Center, Ewing Corporate. We've got interest from the Economic Empowerment Center, We've got the Schenectady City Ministry and the City Ministries, and a few others, right? So we have 10 core members who are nonprofit service providers who are going to be members of this community cooperative, using the space to provide services in the heart of the community, right? We're hoping to continue the campaign in the community to get up to 1,000 community members. We know over 500 people have signed petitions. We have multiple pages of folks signing petitions. We're gonna ask 1,000 community members, there's over 7,000 people in Hamilton Hill, in Vale area, to provide $100 to help capitalize us, right? So 1,000 of them, $100. Next, we're gonna invite investor members between March and May, we think, and we've already had support from the Schenectady Foundation. Many of you guys might see the letter of support from them, to join us as investor members. These investor members are institutions who can provide in-kind support as well as financial support. We're going to be asking for up to $150,000 from 10 of these guys. And so maybe the average will be $100,000. So that's how we're looking to continue this journey. We have the service provider members. We know the community is there to support this. And next, we're hoping to tap into the institutional community, of which we have a lot of support from the Schenectady Foundation. Next step, of course, after this communication today, we're hoping to acquire Carver and work together with the city, with values-aligned developers, to make this happen. Not for Joe Matthews, but for the Hamilton Hill families, right? They need it. So if we can work together, I'm sure we can figure it out. Between March of this year and June 2025, that's almost a year, a little over a year, sorry. We can make this happen. According to the quotes from the contractors, it's about 6 months for the construction to be completed once they get started. This is just based on correspondence I've seen. So that building could be stabilized by December if we wanted to. However, obviously nothing works so perfectly. And they're saying if it's not fixed by some parts of it not stabilized, some parts won't make it through the winter. So I know there's a sense of urgency there. And the building's on the historic register. So the final step, of course, looking into the end of next year, will be to formalize our offerings as this community's cooperative and open the doors as the Hamilton Hill Community Co-op and offer the services we mentioned for the Parsons family. So that's the next step. So what does this cost? Startup loan, you guys all have the proposal. We know that the lowest bids for the project came in at around $2.9 million for construction. So that includes everything, but maybe about some smaller details, commercial kitchen and things like that. So we have a little bit of a build out there for that. Commercial kitchens can run anywhere 40 to 200 for, very extravagant. So we just put that in there, cushion, maybe a security system, like a fob system. Every member gets a little fob, they come in and out, we know who's in. And 10% for working capital to support the operations over that first 3 or 4 years. So that totals about $3.5 million to start up sources. We know the city of Schenectady has previously allocated $1.2 million to this project. We're gonna ask that you continue that allocation, right? We know the community needs it. We know we need to spend the money. I think it's a match. Next, the Hamilton Hill Community Co-op's members. As I mentioned, we have 3 classes of members. We have the residential members, people who live in Hamilton Hill. We have the service provider members, these homegrown institutions providing these needed services, and as well as our institutional investor members who can help us design and seed a trust so that we can perpetually benefit from that trust and have a self-sustaining program, in addition to the grants and so on that these 10 organizations are used to attracting. These are relatively well-known organizations despite being under-resourced. We also are looking at an Office of Child and Family Services grant for childcare when the childcare is needed in the community. They're home-based providers, but this can be a way to support that. So we partner with the Art Center, submit a $1.5 million application. We're looking for about $750,000. Finally, CFNE, the Cooperative Fund of the Northeast. I'm affiliated with this fund, and I help form and finance cooperatives across the country. They can provide up to $2 million per deal. We're probably looking for a $500,000 line of credit, and if we can get less, we'll probably go less because we don't want to start with debt. Probably around 5%, 5.5%. So that's what we're dealing with there. This is some of the monthly expenses. Right now, this is what folks can expect to pay for their current programming. So, that's about $70,000 a month as far as what folks are used to paying for their real estate. We want to save folks money, right? They're sharing this space, making ownership more accessible because they're sharing it. Additionally, we'd want to provide other services like shared bookkeeping, shared accounting, shared marketing. The more money we save these groups, the more money they have to support this initiative and provide services to the community. On the expense side, we know we're going to see staff. We're hoping to initially start with a community manager, someone who could deal with the internal community, make sure everyone has what they need, the temperature is right, halls are swept. We'll have an office manager, collecting rent, keeping the books in order, both part-time initially, increasing over time. Utilities and internet. We use some commercial real estate averages, $2.10 per square foot. Multiply that by the 20,000 square feet, and we get these numbers, as well as property maintenance. We use other industry averages, 2.3 times the 20,000 square foot to get that number. For insurance, fill out an application online using one of those services. They spit out a quote around $800 a month. We can probably do around up to 1,000. Some comparable organizations that I've called and got quotes for give me their number, probably maxing out about 1,000 a month. So, sustainability plan. As I mentioned, we're hoping to get working capital or operational support, 100,000, split over the next 3-4 years. Then we'd also get usage fees. We can probably expect at max capacity to get $84,000. As I said, it's about $70,000 a month for the couple of organizations in there. But we'll assume a 50% usage rate, so we say $42,000. If we seed a fund for $150,000, right, one of our investors or multiple can do so, help us design and seed the fund. At 7% average return, that's $10,000 year one. So we can get that to get the ball rolling. Next up, space rental. This is just community members who want to access the space, maybe host a tournament, whatever the case is. We get 3 or 4 of those, 250 or so. We put it in there. And all the expenses are basically self-explanatory. For marketing, we're looking to maybe do a documentary year one to show the community this model of cooperation, to show this story. We think it could be a powerful story. And then regular market materials, supplies and miscellaneous, toilet paper, ink, so on. Professional services for year one. This would be a lawyer to help us design the trust in collaboration with our institutional investor members. We already have a lawyer we're working with, but a trust, simple trust could range from $6,000 all the way up to $10,000 for a very complicated one. We're just trying to do something that would make sense. And then finally, interest-only payments under line of credit. We can keep going. So year 2, these costs just continue to increase. If we get 2 more investors in that fund that we want to do, that undividable reserves, we can get 500,000, 7% of that, 35,000. That's helping us to get to break even. By year 3, we've broken even. We've earned 234,000, expenses 215,000. Obviously, this is best case scenario, and the numbers are very conservative. We'll be looking to reduce costs using eco-efficiency measures such as LED bulbs. We'd want to do solar panels. We want to do automatic shut-offs, things like that. All these basic things. And my company is involved with a few of these types of proposals through NYSERDA and so on. So we think we can take advantage of that and try to figure that piece out. Potential partners. All of these guys have demonstrated some support in the past to this or something like this. The city of Schenectady, 1.2, Metroplex, 150,000. Seeing, what folks desire to continue to support this second leg of the journey would be, and see what's going on. As we said, the building is in the heart of the Craigmane Connection. We've seen a lot of support from Tonko and Santa Barbara at the political level. And recently we even saw Santa Barbara supporting my side, who was at risk of leaving because they had a building that was facing some disrepair. So we think there's a lot of precedent for support around a community center, especially a homegrown one like Carver, that has such significance historically. Schenectady County, we have friends over there who we think will be supportive of this, and we'll rely on you guys to help us to connect to that. The Schenectady Foundation, I mentioned we already have a letter of support from them and a desire to connect us to the philanthropic community in the capital region. Literally a round table, going into the room, pitching this, many funders at once to see who would be interested in joining into this. So that's the right, Community Foundation, Capital Region, many others. We think there's interest, or could be interest from the Stewards Foundation. Business for Good already had the line out for this, so we're queued up for a conversation from them. The Tui Foundation has supported the Restorative Justice Housing Fund, provided millions of dollars to Black and low-income homeowners in the Capital Region. So we think they'd be queued up for this. We're friends with that program. And a few others that I've mentioned, as well as a few community development financial institutions. Community Loan Fund in the Capital Region, I used to be a technical assistance provider there. They're less active in Schenectady, but they're a part of the original deal. I'm sure we can have a conversation. And the Cooperative Fund, which I'm currently affiliated with, providing finance or access to finance to emerging communities across the country. So right now, with the 1.2 that the city already had allocated for this project, all of what's on the screen is possible. All abatement of hazardous materials, all demolition of unneeded materials and systems, finished installation of new electrical service, and installing temporary lighting and power in the building so we can do tours and inspections and so on. All roof repairs and replacements, all site improvements, fencing, landscape, asphalt, gravel, pavement stripping, exterior and interior masonry work and repairs, including new doorways where needed, exterior slabs for mechanical equipment, all window repairs and replacements, all exterior door repairs and replacements, renovation of a bathroom by the back door, renovation of the auditorium, and so on. So quite a lot is already possible. If we come together, even more is possible. So that's the point of this entire effort. I welcome your questions.
Mr. Farley?
So first of all, I'd like to appreciate the way you frame that. Sometimes we get caught up in our thinking around the project and we forget that the project was really about people. So I can appreciate that. I wanted to ask a question. As you're looking at taking on partners, I know that there's talks of other community partners just in the swirlings have been interested. And it seems like this group is actually looking to collaborate with other stakeholders in order to sustain, in order for sustainability. That's correct, right?
Yeah, we're happy to collaborate with any values-aligned investor, service provider, and developer. And when we say values-aligned, community-centered, creating a sense of ownership for the community, providing a new model. So we think anyone who's open to that, certainly someone we're willing to work with.
Thank you.
So this will not be a 501c3, then it'll be a cooperative?
So there's two ways to think of this. One is the character of the business. You can be cooperative in nature because we're all engaged in this decision-making process in a one member, one vote, right? You can do so as a nonprofit, as a for-profit. And then you can think about the actual entity form, right? Whether it's a nonprofit, for-profit, or cooperative corporation, you can create the entity to suit the financial environment. If the people with the problem can pay for it, that's a business. If the people with the problem can't pay for it, that's a nonprofit, right? With the co-op, we're gonna pay to solve this problem together, right? Like the food co-op, they have their customers built in, that's their members. With a residential co-op, they have their customers built in, that's their renters or their residential owners. With a worker co-op, they have the labor built in and so on and so forth. So we can choose an entity form that's conducive to whatever the environment is, and we're working on that right now with a lawyer.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Williams?
First, I just wanted to point out, I very much appreciate the way in which you started your presentation. I think hearing it framed in that way accurately put the appropriate level of importance on ensuring that this project sees a fair opportunity. One of the points I wanted to ask, I had two, and I thought it was a very good point that you made. You identified that the starting of construction, conservative or not conservative, but if we started now, it would consist of March 2024 to June of 2025. Is that correct?
Be less than that. 6 months is what, the bid says. So, but, perfect conditions, obviously, is what they're thinking.
But the point I wanted to highlight is you identified just the continuation of no renovations being conducted, this building going through another winter.
Exactly.
From your conversations, would you mind expanding on that?
So all I have are correspondence snapshots delivered from the architect and the construction documents pertaining to that, to the city and to, the previous holders of the baton. So, the correspondence is all with the city, and I can kind of reference that, but that's all I know. That there's an opinion that the building, certain aspects of it will not last, probably roof and these types of things. So the construction details are all with the city at this point.
But I think it's safe to surmise that just the cost is going to continue to skyrocket
Yes,
the
it
longer
will
that this
be.
building exists in its current condition.
The cost of doing nothing now is definitely more substantial than the opportunity to do something about it.
Absolutely. I did want to focus on the sources for the projected startup costs. You identified in the Hamilton Hill Community Collaborative that the members would consist of $1,110,000. Do you have a timeline for how you'd start?
Yeah. So we already have this 10 service providers that we think are core. Each of them could do a buying of $1,000 to $10,000. Then we believe 1,000 community members, over 600 or so, have already demonstrated support of this. We go to that list and we try to get the next 400, each of them given $100. They can pay it over the course of several months if they needed to. But that's what it would take. They've already signed a petition. So 1,000 of those. Then we go to up to 10 institutional investor members within the capital region community to provide up to $150,000. Assuming the average will be 100,000, some will be less, whatever. That's 10 at 100,000, that's $1 million. That's 1,000 people at $100, that's 100,000. And that's 10 service providers at 1,000. That's $1,110,000.
And if you had to assign a date to that or a timeline?
Gotcha. Yeah, I would say over the next 3 months, we're gonna get cooking on that. And obviously, we'll continue the campaign throughout the year. We think the sense of urgency is gonna drive people to action and see if it's possible.
Mr. Mutabera?
Yeah, just to follow on that, you mentioned about having 10 core members at $100,000. As $100,000, is that correct?
10 core members, the service providers,
Yes.
that'd be $10,000, so 1,000 each.
$10,000.
Yeah.
So is that, you mentioned petition, or is there a commitment letter from these individuals or agencies?
We are all committed. We're creating the corporation right now. We don't, have a memorandum of understanding between ourselves, but we're showing up every week, meeting, and, a lot of them are in the room right now. They can speak for themselves. Happy to demonstrate that commitment. Yeah.
So you mentioned about creating this entity now. You're in the process of doing that. So
Yes.
it's not finalized yet. And you are not sure if it's going to be a non-for-profit or a for-profit entity at this point in time.
We have two options on the table. Obviously, it could be a for-profit cooperative corporation, subchapter T, or it could be a 501c12, kind of a variation on the C3 model, the charitable nonprofit. And this would, again, just be based on making sure we can do everything we want to do within the context and within the financial environment. So those are the two options we have. We just have to kind of vote to move forward. We do have the lawyer. We do believe we can get that expedited.
So I was going to ask that it's something that you should expedite if you're
Yeah.
in power.
Yeah, and 10 organizations are established nonprofits and for-profit business. If we needed a fiscal sponsor, we have that. That's pretty typical. But yes, you're right. We have to choose one, and we're in the process of doing so.
You also mentioned about the grant from OCFS. Are they paperwork in, or are you just exploring that?
So we included the deadline for the application, and Rachel could speak a little bit more to
Planning to
that.
submit.
Sorry?
We're planning to submit.
Plans on it. And the next one, the letter of credit. Are you doing the same in terms of getting the paperwork in?
Yeah, I've already spoken to the loan officer, and we're kind of exploring that piece already.
And the reason why I mentioned it, because we're looking at, you mentioned the lowest bid at 2.9.
2.9.
And you're estimating a total completion of 3.56 million.
Yeah.
So the shortfall is about, significant amount. So that's where my question is coming in terms of the HCC members, getting a commitment from them. Not only a mere petition or a letter or an email or a text that they're going to do that. It's more, someone needs to make a formal commitment in terms of these funding, because these are critical funding to complete this project.
Yeah, and of course, I agree with that. I would say that 50 years, the Art Center's been here is a commitment. 20 years from Community Fathers is a commitment. We're very much committed to this. Many of these groups, well-respected organizations, are working with their executives, making less than what we believe is the moderate income. You know what I mean? So the commitment is there, but we will get it in writing. You're absolutely right.
Now, you did mention, sorry, you did mention a list of foundations. Are you reaching out to them, or are you sending formal letters to bring them on board as being vital partners?
Yes. And we've already gotten a letter of support from the Schenectady Foundation in writing, and that will be kind of a catalyst. As we know, the foundation is a catalyst, and Bob has already volunteered to start to connect us to that founding roundtable that I mentioned before. They meet a few times a year, so we're going to be queued up for that, however that plays out, as well as one-on-one conversations with each of the funders that we have listed. So I've already reached out to many of them. Some of them, obviously we need to have some measure of assurance from the city. We're not looking to be across the table from you guys. We wouldn't be looking at this problem together, moving forward together. So as long as that's the path to beginning that conversation is clear, I think we're going to be full steam ahead.
Just a follow-up on that, I'm going to go back to the registration. If you were to put a timeline on that, can you put a timeline on that? Because I know it's very important that you register this entity.
For the registration?
A timeline on that, seeing how important it is?
Yeah, I would say right now we're mid-March. The goal is to have that buttoned up by May. So that would be the timeline, next 3 months. But certainly before that will be completed. If we decided to do an LLC, which is very possible, it's still having the nonprofit members just have an ownership in that. That's done next week, right? So there's certain things we can do quickly and certain things that'll take time. We have a very experienced cooperative lawyer, as well as, I'm very familiar with this process. So.
Can you speak to, I know that there was another group that was taking this, and then you were trying to partner and didn't exactly work out. So can you kind of speak to the time when you picked up to where you are now? Because it seems you've done a significant amount of work in that time frame. So can you speak to?
Since we started organizing this, again, in anticipation of supporting the fruits of their labor, we were already tuned in. Now we just realized we had to come together, given the unfortunate nature of the relinquished property. So over the last month or two is when we've been formally organizing, pulling these quotes, letting people know about this. So that's where we've been. We're also trying to learn from them. We want to be as open as possible. We want everyone to know they have a seat if their values aligned, obviously, and committed to the community at this table, and that we can do this together. So we try to learn from them. We respect what they've done. We think it's been an admirable effort. It's brought attention to this. It's brought a sense of possibility. And that's how we connect to it. We're new.
Did you have something, Mr. Farley?
But no, I think you pretty much covered.
Any other questions? So I just want to be clear. Your ask is, you can articulate your ask.
So the ask would be a pathway to ownership for the building, right? Again, we see this as a city problem, shared problem. This neighborhood's going to feel the brunt of that impact. And first right of refusal, right, if we want to do something else. Because again, these are all extant nonprofit service providers. I would say homegrown institutions, places where people feel at home receiving the services they need. And we also are asking for continued allocation of the $1.2 million previously allocated, and to do so on a basis of non-reimbursement. So whether it's a progress invoicing or upfront, we aren't capitalized well enough to spend money to be reimbursed. So we don't want it on that basis. as well as matching. We're not going to be able to raise money to get the money that we already raised, so we're asking for it to be allocated without those two constraints because they're unsuitable for us as a group trying to engage this project. And finally, we're asking for you guys to partner with us to make this happen.
So the way you explained it, the 1.250 would be used just for the next 6 months to get the building online? Is that,
Yes.
do I understand that properly?
Yes, to make sure this building doesn't become more expensive to fix.
And that's how you were looking to spend that
Yeah.
allocation? Okay. Other questions? Yes, Ms. Williams.
I'd say final question, and I very much appreciate your optimism, and definitely it identifies a clear need, and I don't think that is something that is debatable. That was highlighted through your narrative at the beginning. Would you mind just identifying what you think your biggest obstacle or hurdle will be?
Yeah, I think a lot of us don't know what we don't know, right? You start digging up that building, all of a sudden, you uncover some ancestral burial ground, something, right? It's haunted, who knows? So I think just there's a lot of things we don't know individually, right? We have a lot of gusto, a lot of capacity, but we're under-resourced. So if we can partner with other folks like the city, who's also, facing certain shortfalls or whatever the case is, but has a lot of capacity in other places, we can fill in the puzzle. So I think just not having it all by ourselves is the obstacle, and the cooperation is the solution.
Thank you.
Just one
Mr.
more.
Rivera?
I think we mentioned a lot of foundation and entities. I didn't see you mention anything about going to the county or have the county here as a partner. Have you approached the county to
The same there,
to
yeah.
this project?
Yes, so Omar McGill is supportive of the project, and we know that there was an effort previously to align county interest in this, and so we'd want to continue to shake those trees again. I'm sure a lot of you guys are familiar with folks over there and how things work, so maybe you can help us out as well.
Any other questions or anybody else? Do you have anything else to speak, or you're set?
Would anyone like to say anything?
I think that he said everything that needed to be said.
You think that he said everything?
Okay, but I just want to just say,
Then you do want to say something.
let me just say something, because I think that even as a community resident, this is so important to the heart of our community. This is like a heartbeat of our community. It has been, it's always been. And right now, to walk by and see it in the shape that it's in, and it's sitting empty, it's like a blight. Besides that, I think that the fact that we're moving towards cooperative, it would be beautiful if many of us nonprofits had the kind of money that we could just go and buy a building and make it happen. But we don't have it like that. And the fact is that we're dealing with a principle. I heard you ask the last people about certain things about a value system. And the value system that we're putting into this is cooperative economics and collective work and responsibility. These are two of the 7 principles that we deal with when we deal with the whole thing of Kwanzaa, and the principles that we try to bring to improve our community through creativity, to leave it better than it was. And also it's about our city showing the type of efforts it makes to make sure that the community is involved. We are a very innovative place here in Schenectady. When I go places and I speak on Schenectady, people have never heard a city that does some of the things that is being done here in terms of outreach and the way it brings in a collectiveness of bringing people together. And I think this is also something that will show that and show our community, because the community wants to see something that it helped create. And I think this is, as a resource center, this is really just going to take it to the next level for the 21st century. That's all I have to say.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Oh, Mr. Farlow,
Yeah.
with the pen.
So I know that the previous group that was kind of leading this effort, something that they did do extremely well was going out and getting signatures for over 500 residents that lived in the immediate area. So I can appreciate how this project is still in the spirit of what the community was explicit about them wanting. So I think that, that's really important to highlight, and as well as you being willing and to be responsible for the needs of the community, but also being willing to welcome other partners on to help out with some of this, the issues around sustainability. And as a council, I just welcome us to kind of consider the fact, I think to Madam President's point earlier, or really to her question, is that this is not necessarily a community problem, but a community opportunity that's been presented in a really, really tight timeline based on the circumstances that the last group found themselves in. So to pick this up, you're really not starting from zero here. You're building on what's already there, and you're still responsible to the needs of the community. So just kind of wanted to highlight that.
Absolutely. We're a distinct group from that group, but we are continuing a legacy that has inspired the community. So thank you guys for your time. Take care.
Thank you.
Our final presentation is from about the Empowerment Center. Brother Ron Gardner, our Affirmative Action Officer. He is presenting today asking City Council to reconsider the ARPA funds that were allocated towards. Maurice just threw me off, I'm so sorry. Mr. Gardner did not submit one today, Maurice, thank you. He's looking to have the funds reallocated for the rehab of the Empowerment Center on Albany Street to programming over the next 3 years. So, Mr. Ron Gardner.
Good afternoon, good evening, council members, mayor, distinguished guests. That was a powerful presentation. I wanted to say that right out of the gate. And we're talking about the Economic Empowerment Center, and I'll just say, coming right out, that's exactly the same mission and vision that we've had for the past 4 years in terms of working in a collaborative effort, and creating an ecosystem, if you will. So I'm totally 100% in support of what they're proposing here and working with them to make this happen. And what I had specifically asked for was we were allocated some funds to redevelop 818 Albany Street. And obviously with the cost of construction and getting that whole ecosystem off the line, that's not going to happen. That's not working. But I had, a proposal here in terms of what we want to do, but it's all around programming. And to that, creating job opportunities, creating business capacity and growing capacity, and also developing a pipeline of a workforce to come to us within the city by way of the public safety, police, fire, and all of the other departments that we have within our ecosystem within this building. So with that said, I would love to work with this group because I think this is so critically important to really make this happen. And if we're going to be serious and really make a difference in the lives of our community, I think it's laid out, and we see these examples every day when you go out there on the streets and you talk to people. And I tell folks all the time, a lot of people come on every day, and they're so happy to be in this city, but they're really in a desperate state. And we need to figure out, how do we make a difference? How can we utilize the resources and this once-in-a-lifetime opportunity that we have, because this is truly once in a lifetime. And I would certainly, ask the council and allow us the opportunity to work, with these groups and others, but in a collaborative effort, because that's our whole mission, is how do we create the capacity, how do we create job opportunities, and how do we create more home buyers and home ownership with our community. And that's really what it's all about, and that's where my heart has been, and I'm sure that's where I know Dr. Walters. I know him, but anyway, that's where I'm at. So I'll leave it at that. I'm here for any questions or whatever. But yes.
You really weren't explicit on what you would like us from the council, though.
Well, specifically, what I want to do is reallocate the funds that I had that were going toward the construction of 818. Mm-hmm. And I want to move that into programming. And when I talk about programming, I had broke out into categories of small business support, workforce development, and also developing a pipeline of a workforce to come into the city force by way of the fire department, police department, and other agencies within the city. So those are the three, basic categories that I have outlined there.
So, do you have a written plan for us that we could, we need to be able to take a look at that?
Yeah. I have a plan. I thought that it was submitted, but anyway, I'll give that to you. And again, I would like to, take the time to modify it to reflect, what we learned here and how we can, make a difference and make it happen.
All right, business card. So we have nothing.
I do not have a plan unless you're referencing the plan that you presented early on to city council, but not just for this
Right.
reallocation.
Exactly.
Okay.
So, Madam President,
Mr. Furley?
so you might have been on the same kind of long page as I'm. So basically, there will be a plan, and you're saying that based on some of the information that you heard today, you'd like the opportunity to kind of revamp some of that to see what it naturally aligns with some of the other proposals we received today?
Yeah,
Okay,
I
thank
know
you.
it aligns, so yes.
Ms. Carter? So how much funding are we talking about at this point in time? I think we need to be clear about the dollars and cents.
$875,000
Was what was allocated,
what was allocated.
and some of that's been spent.
53,000 roughly.
Okay. And so you're asking us to take the balance of that, the 800 and whatever it is, to all towards programming over the next 3 years?
Yes.
Okay.
No, I just was
Okay.
looking at my notes. The remaining balance is $823,496 to be exact. My apologies.
All right. All right, so that's what's left. And so you're just asking it to go towards programming. Okay, so again, we really need to have a plan. And I just want to, I can speak, everyone was here at the last meeting. So there's another group that initially your applications have been put together, the Jury Foundation. And so Jury has changed what they're doing to some level. And so they're asking for more money as well. So we're definitely going to have to look at this, not necessarily together, but we're going to have to look at that big pot of funding all at once. We just don't have any other money. So, again, there's nothing written tonight then.
So for clarity, Mr. Gardner, the City Council, you want me to resubmit what was submitted the last time you came and spoke on programming in the Empowerment Center to City Council, which was last month sometime?
Right. So I want to revise that to work more collaborative, with this group, so we have a more cohesive, comprehensive plan because I think these resources will help them get a little bit closer to the hump. And as far as the Empowerment Center and what I'm trying to do, that's not an issue. I've always wanted to work collaboratively because it's not in the building, and it doesn't matter if it's here, there, or whatever. It's all about how do we serve people. And what I'm putting forth is simply a people's budget, if you will, to provide those services. So they've outlined some of them already. We can certainly enhance on that and grow on it and build on it.
Any other questions? Yes,
Yes,
Mr.
I
Montevero?
just have a question as follows. You mentioned a part of your workforce to include the police and the fire. Can you elaborate on that? And what is their involvement or your involvement in these departments?
Yeah, well, specifically what I'd like to do is work within our community and develop a pipeline, if you will, to get our young men and young women from here in our city and surrounding areas to consider public safety. And public safety don't necessarily mean just the police and fire, but we got OGS, we got law enforcement, everything. So when we talk about public safety, we want to try to encourage and create that ecosystem within our community, within our neighborhoods. And we're working to develop that partnership, starting, going into the school district and getting them young and coming forward and exploring and sharing ideas and exposing them to the opportunities. So again, specifically about public safety, police and fire, we're trying to identify and enhance the efforts in terms of why you want to consider that, support and help them prepare, for these exams and applying for these opportunities, and also explore expose them to opportunities by having them meet and talk to people in the field. In other words, talk to the firemen, talk to the police officers, see what it's like, where did they come from, how did they relate, why would this be an interesting, an opportunity for us? And I think we can really develop a pipeline and giving them support and the resources necessary to make a difference, because the school district obviously want to work with us. We as a city want to do this, so I think it will help us. It becomes a win-win scenario is what we're trying to do. So it's simply just trying to build a pipeline, if you will, to have the bodies to bring them forward.
Is this something new that you're going to be creating, or is this something you already have?
We've been talking about it for years, but getting it done, it's talking one thing and dealing with the resources and the barriers to make it happen. But each and every day, more and more pieces of the puzzle come together. So it took me 2 years to get a conversation with the school district, with the change in administration and the change of this and how do we make it work. So now we have that piece of the puzzle down. We have a desire from within the administration here to bring in people, look at from our local ranks, how do we grow and develop that. So every day, more and more of those pieces of the puzzle comes together. So we work with other organizations, like, for example, the 100 Black Men, for example. They have a tremendous amount of resources in there in terms of police and fire and other public safety avenues, so we can utilize that resource. I work with the community colleges. We work with them on a regular basis to again, help us develop this pipeline to make it happen. How do we navigate this?
Mr. Farley?
Yeah, I just hearing all of these things, and there seems to be a lot of alignment, a lot of information, a lot of good information, even as we're trying to navigate this. These are all kind of good problems to have, if you will, great opportunities. I would just, I would suggest that maybe based on some of the information that you heard here today, go ahead and revising what the initial proposal was, and therefore I think that we can make a more informed decision based on that.
And does this include the programming that you're currently doing on the in the building on Broadway?
Yeah, we would include all of it. That's ongoing. So these are things that will obviously migrate over, expand on, whatever the case may be. But yes, absolutely, because again, we're not starting from ground zero. We've got programming that we've been doing and will continue to do on a daily basis. So those things will continue. And as these other opportunities come online, or these other physical plants that will come online, that's an easy, migration plan.
So those programs that you're currently executing, are those funded under CDBG?
Yes, yeah.
Any other questions, comments? All right, well, we'll look forward to the submission of those documents. Do you have anything else you want to add?
No,
Okay.
I don't know.
You can't talk about the next time. You can't talk about the next time.
I'm sorry.
It's okay. It's all right.
Okay. One other thing I would like to add is it's sort of off topic though, but it continually come up in terms of workforce contracting opportunities and employment opportunities within the city. And I am aware of contractors feeling that they have not gotten opportunities, and I would just say that I agree with them 200%. They have not gotten opportunities that they need, and we work to deal with that on a daily basis. But I will say to those contractors, me personally, I don't write contracts, I don't sign checks, I can't hire anybody, so I work with you in an effort to bring forth opportunities so that you can build relationships and make those type of things happen. Now, frustration is out there, yes, and you see a lot of things going on, yes. But I think one thing that we can certainly do is look at, okay, if we really want to seriously take a step and stop that, we can stop all the contracts that don't meet the objectives. We can say, okay, we're not going to do it, or put them back out the bid, or whatever. But I'm just as frustrated as everybody else here, to see, the numbers. It breaks my heart because I see the young men and young lady out there on the street trying to get a job. I see them putting in the application, and I see they're not getting hired. So what can we do? And this is what we're trying to do to create these programming opportunities, so at least we can move one of those little barriers out of the way as we continue to build and put these pieces together. So that's what I am.
Okay, good.
Mr. Farley?
Yeah, so being that that you kind of talk on that topic, I know before you were here, you talked about the possibility of, I think, bundling some of the larger contracts to give more MWBE contractors the opportunity. I would, again, not to put more work on you, and I know working with the mayor's office, I know something that he's been paying close attention to, trying to figure out like what can we do as a council, because the frustration is one thing, but what are the action steps that we can do, and then hopefully that you'll be able to present sort of a range of those action steps, because obviously our fiduciary responsibility to the city, we also want to make sure that anyone who's getting contracts from the city recognizes that there's a value that we place on hiring MWBE and Section 3 workers. So maybe I think it would be helpful for maybe producing a range of actions that that are within our purview that can encourage the contractors and anyone that we're doing business with to help us meet those goals. Because it to me feels like there's some daylight between the current situation, some frustration here, but then really like what are the actions, what can we do? And if we're committed to that, then I cautiously, optimistically speak on behalf of my colleagues that we're willing to take some action there, obviously with the guidance of the mayor's office and partners.
Yeah. To that point, we do have a good plan in terms of participation and goals and objectives, and it's very realistically and very well thought out. I think one thing that will certainly help us with these hurdles, if you will, because we're dealing with a broad range of issues. But but keeping it simple. Let's say that the bid comes in. We sit down at the table, we'll talk the bids, and their goal, their objectives don't meet what it's supposed to be. We should be able to just at that point just stop it right there and just put it to the side. They didn't meet the objectives. I mean, we can get that black and white about it.
And obviously we have to manage that against the needs of the city.
Do we want to get the business projects done and all that? Now, there's a lot of the education component that sort of goes along with that too. We also have to think about when we take this route, do we have the capacity to fill all the things out there? Capacity is the big issue. So let's say that XYZ company says, okay, I'm going to give this to this contractor because we know that we got to meet this goal. And the contractor don't have a goal. What are we going to do? How are we going to support this contractor? We've been trying to keep it real with these contractors and say, I know you're in business, I know you want to do this, but sometimes you may not be ready for this. Do you understand the insurance requirements? Do you understand the finance commitment? Do you understand that when you go out here and start this job, the city of Schenectady is not going to cut you a check up front so you can buy material? Do you understand you got to meet your payroll every week? Do you have those resources? And those are the realistic things that we have to do. So we can do it, and I'm right here ready. We have a plan, we have a mechanism in place to make that happen. But I think we can also think about in terms of how do we break these things down into small pieces where we can create opportunities for the Tyrones of the world. For example, Tyrone may not be able to pave all the streets out there, but he can certainly install windows, paint, or do something else. How can we build the capacity of that guy so that he can at some point be at a level where he'll have the capacity to do, other type things and hire. And the truth be told is, these small firms are the ones that hire our local workforce. It's not the big contractors out there that's got the big contract with $40 million job. When you look at the certified payroll, those people that own that payroll is not in this 12305, 12307. They're not here. Okay? So, we've been trying to work up to that capacity, but that's the conversation we have to have. We can certainly start at this table when we open up the bid. If the bid meets the objectives coming in, yes or no, we move to the side and keep it moving. So that's one thing that we can do. And we can start also having conversation with the bidders and, contracting, engineering, and everybody else. But that's where it starts. It starts here, with us as a family. No one department can do it, no one person can do it, but we can certainly start right at this table, yes.
Mr. Williams?
And just as a point of clarity, based on comments you just made, I want to be careful in ensuring that we don't conflate the two conversations that we're having at the moment.
Right.
I think if we're identifying if your efforts as the affirmative action officer, how are they yielding to some of the end users who kind of benefit from your actions? I think from the council, and I can only speak for myself, tell us what more we have to do or what more we can do to ensure that these individuals continue to receive these resources and these opportunities moving forward. However, if we are then looking at the separate conversation of funding your empowerment proposal, for me, myself personally, you identified a number of roles and responsibilities that I imagine you currently manage solely. It is wanting to understand what team or additional resources you need because you, Mr. Gardner, cannot be in multiple places at once.
No, that's the point. We do need, more resources. So if that's not going to be the case, that obviously has to be pared down. And as I've mentioned to several of you before, I got to put, laser focus on what the task is in front of me, So we can't do everything to everybody and be effective. But I do believe that in this arena of creating an ecosystem or economic opportunities for everyone, it's one thing to say, okay, we have opportunities for you, we have a house for you, or we have this for you. But if you don't have the resources or the expertise or whatever to pull all that together, then we're doing you a disservice. So we need to have that real conversation and say you do have to be prepared. And those are some of the things that we do. We have, workshops that we plan on an ongoing basis where we have professionals come in, the SBA, the bank, and tell you this is what you got to have to, get the resources. How do we make you bankable, if you will? And it's not just a matter of going and saying I got a contract or whatever, to do it, because ultimately it comes back to the same thing. Do you have the resources, which means do you have the money to get into this game? And as a responsibility of the municipality, you have a full plate on your hands in terms of dealing with the simple part of it to make it happen. So, how do we do it?
Mr. Furley?
So just for clarity, it's looking like how I'm understanding this is the council, it would be beneficial, and we can expect you to put together kind of a more revised allocation of resources based on some of the things that you heard tonight, and maybe some more information that might come to you in between time, and also maybe because in the second issue there's a lot of deference that has to be given to you because you are the expert in this area, and what we would really need is almost a list of graduated interventions, if you will, that we can look at and say, okay, this is something that we do have the capacity to do that will get us closer to those goals and support our local economy, and we can kind of scale up as we go, maybe all scaffold it a little bit. So those two different documents would be really vital for us moving forward.
Yeah, there's a lot of that alphabet soup, and it's true that there's a lot on both sides of the key, but it's a huge, massive issue. It's a big problem, and I think the key here is your role here as a council, with the mayor sitting right there, understanding this and helping us guide the process. That's really the key, because from over here where I sit, it's just a matter of, you're very limited. I'm limited in terms of what I can do, by state or federal law. I'm limited in terms of what I can do within the confines of what I have to deal with here. But this is it. You guys tell me, what you want to do, and we can make it happen.
Well, you have to tell us what some of the possibilities.
I can do it.
Thank you, sir. Absolutely.
Yes.
Any other questions, comments from the council? Thank you, Mr. Gardner. We look forward to that information. We appreciate it. And thank you, Ms. Harwood. So we will now enter into our official agenda and start with our committee's finance.
Thank you. I would like to call the Finance Committee to order. And the first item is to create a special assessment district on a portion of North College Street. We had a public hearing on 11th of March, and I will ask Mr. Wallace to just give us a brief update on the project, on this project, before we move forward in creating this special assessment district.
So this project was created at the end of last year. We are on to essentially 100% complete. We're on the punch list just to make sure the grass grows and that the trees bloom in the spring. After we've completed the project, engineering put together as-built drawings of all the properties, calculated all of the additional costs associated with these projects. This project was unique in that it was not only at $55 per linear foot, but there was also some brickwork and some other lead walk items that were also added. So we had to document and classify all those. Once those were done and together, it was sent to Lindsay in our receipts office so that we could get the numbers together for the assessment rules, and then we called for public hearing. So we had the public hearing, the period is over, and this is now the next step. After this approval, we will be sending out the assessments. I think there are municipal vouchers to all of the residents on the street for the billing of the work.
Questions? So you have an ordinance in front of you, so any questions regarding? Staying down, I would like to ask a motion to create a special assessment district for a portion of Norge College Street.
So moved.
Second. All in favor? Aye. Thank you. And then the next item is the Central Park Sideway Improvement Project. We had a public hearing on February 26th. We held this for a couple of weeks because there were some concern that was sent to us and the engineering department. Mr. Walling addressed those, and I think we're ready to move forward based on the feedback we received from the residents. And I asked Mr. Walling to just give us an update.
So we had a public meeting outside of council, independent public meeting in City Hall, where the residents that did show unanimously agreed to keep the street's character as is. So that would mean that allowing no parking on the street to keep the character of the road, i.e. the landscaping, intact. The public hearing was called. That was actually in council chambers, just like we were doing now. At the public hearing, it was discussed that some wanted on-street parking and were against the idea of no on-street parking. Some even switched their vote. Voted for it to not. So to try in a way to come up with a hybrid solution that was not presented at either meeting, we sat down and we looked at an option which you have in front of you, which is to create a hybrid where a select on-street parking is constructed that does not interfere with trees. So if you look on, it wouldn't be on the cover page, it would be on the second and third pages. You'll see bump out areas in between the alleys. These areas would affect some lawn, but they would not affect any mature trees. They are purposely constructed to not affect mature trees. It also leaves the island as is and narrows the roadway. So these areas are all within the right-of-way and would be created. I do not know what residents in front of these particular areas' opinion would be, but this was the compromise that the engineer and myself thought would be the least intrusive and get the best results, would be to have these. And I believe the amount of parking spaces is nominal. It's somewhere between 15 and 20, depending on the size of the vehicles, but it does allow for parking in the areas where you would have to go to the alley. And the alley really isn't the most appropriate spot for a visitor or a delivery to come for parking.
So all of the bump outs would be on the alley side? On the side?
Yes, they would only be on the alley side because that's where we have flat space and we would be able to, if we went with a bump out on the other side, we'd start getting in the hills and it would be much more invasive. So this is not a full product, this is just an idea to allow to have some on-street parking. Specifically, I think a couple of people who asked for on-street parking are right in this area, so they would be able to have on-street parking.
Mr. Rivera?
Yeah, I think most of the people who were asking parking was on the side where the alley is. Because if you were to put it on the other side, people have driveways on this other side.
And you'll see that it's only between the alleys. We do not continue it because once you get past the alley towards the Rose Garden, that side then does pick up and have their own driveways.
Oh, okay.
So we're talking about 19, give or take. 19.
Give or take. We don't mark them, so if you have a lot of small cars, you get more than 19. But that's one of the reasons that you don't anymore mark, what they call them T's and L's. We got rid of that because vehicles are all different sizes, so you want to make sure that you can fit as many vehicles in.
All right, open up for questions on this. Go ahead, please.
I just more or less wanted to make a comment. I think this definitely is reflective of the work of your office, so definitely I appreciate it as a member of the council, you taking the additional time to evaluate other options and also kind of reevaluate how to meet some of the concerns of individuals that may or may not have brought their attentions to the meeting, but also kind of changed based on other conversations that they have. But definitely excited to see this before me, so thank you.
Go ahead, please.
Just quickly, so definitely, again, kudos for being responsive to the needs of the citizens of the city. Or just a question, is it like kind of a ballpark on how this cost would look different than the original scope that we talked about?
No, I mean, the scopes that we talked about, they were so inclusive. I mean, we had one that was around 900,000 all the way up to 1.3, and I know there was a conversation about, really, is it only 300,000? I don't think this will have a really drastic effect on anything. We're gonna be narrowing a little bit the roadway. This still has the roadway going from 15 to 13. We really feel that we'd like to leave it at 13. A typical lane is 11, so you're still 2 feet larger than the typical 15. It's a big lane. And with the thing that we're gonna focus on now, if we go listen, we really wanna focus on the turnaround areas, make sure they're adequately sized for the turnarounds, so.
Also, we talked about, I know there was some discussion around like maybe like some striping and things, I mean, narrowing it down obviously to deter people from speeding. As the striping, would that still even be possible or even necessary?
Well, what we would do is we would just stripe one white line to delineate where the parking areas are, and when you hit that, it would make it feel more narrow. We are still also looking at replacing the lighting on the corridor with new LED lighting, but the lighting would be essentially in the same location.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chris. I like that whole idea, right? Trying to help make everyone happy. What kind of footage would it take from the residents on that alley side? Would it take some of their green space away in between those bump outs?
With the bump outs, if we do that, no, I don't. You're talking about would it take the island area away?
Not the island, their lawn. Their lawn that's in between.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. I think you can see there will be a little impact to some of the lawn. Yeah, and you
Not
can see
much, though.
you can see on the second page on the top of it. You know, there's a couple of bushes that we would like to relocate. We're really going to try to see if we can actually replant them back.
Yeah.
So there is not. I mean, you're probably going. If I'm looking at that sidewalk's 5 feet, so you're 5 feet back from the back of the sidewalk, 5 feet to get in. So there is an impact. So that's where, not everyone is going to be, pleased, but we are just trying to keep some of the better trees. If somebody wanted to say that there was a dead tree and they wanted to remove it and wanted parking, we could always extend it. But, after our first meeting, the number one takeaway was preserve the character and integrity of the street by the landscaping. And the whole street is in tree line with very mature trees, so we couldn't fit in these pockets.
Any other
Yes,
question? Go ahead.
I guess my next question is, so what happens now? Does it go back to?
That's an excellent question. If I'm directed to go forward with option D, then I'm going to go forward with option D. And that's what, so once I have a go from the council, we'll start putting this into action. But I don't know about a next public step.
Madam President, Mr. Chairman, I mean, it's really up to the council what you want to do at this point, based on the revisions that have been presented to you. If you feel that they sufficiently address the concerns that were made at the public hearing, you can go forward because the document has addressed those concerns. If you feel that this is a little bit more different, or it's a little bit different from the original plan, then you can call for an additional public hearing on the revised plan, and that would just put off the ordinance, but it would also put off the project for probably 4 weeks, I'm thinking, because of the cycle. If you had a public hearing, you could put it off for a couple of weeks, and maybe at that next council meeting, at the public hearing, after you hear it all at that point, you may decide to do final adoption at that point. So you could put it off for 2 weeks if you wish, and just have the hearing, and that the same evening you feel that everything's sufficiently addressed, then you can adopt the ordinance at that evening, and then it moves things forward a bit more. But it's really up to you if you feel that this is a within the general scope, or you want to give more public input, that's all up to you. But you could do it, like I said, if you want to have a public hearing, 2 weeks, and then that evening, you could decide to move it if you feel that everything's addressed.
Okay. So to address that, I mean, we had the public hearing and many concern that was raised and the letter, the emails that were submitted. One of the most important part of it was addressing the parking, which was loud and clear. So I think that's the only change here, and I think majority is in agreement with terms of providing parking there on that very same site. So I don't think it's a major change to that. It's change based on what was recommended to the engineering department, to us, for this project to move forward. Go ahead, please.
Yeah, I agree with you that, because I actually attended a meeting where they said this is part of it. So we made the changes, however, I think it's also important that we inform people that this is a change as opposed to just moving ahead with it. So to do what has been suggested by Mr. O'Brien, the 2 weeks as opposed to this extended public hearing process, to do the 2 weeks, put the information out there that this is what the changes are going to be. And again, I think it's going to make some people happy, but I'm always a proponent of informing people and making people know and being inclusive rather than when the bulldozers show up. So I'm in favor of waiting the 2 weeks and approving it that night and then moving forward.
This information is actually out, sharing it within the homeowners there.
You've already started putting
Yes,
this out there?
I shared it out.
Oh,
I did not.
okay.
Yes.
All right, so I think we,
So they have access to this.
right, so I think we still go with that, the hearing, the public hearing in 2 weeks and then move forward, as opposed to not, given that, we did make some changes, so just want to, end up on the right side of this. 2 more weeks, is it going to be?
No, we can start, getting some of the other things together. We're just talking about
Do you really need that?
It's up to the council. It's what you feel. I mean, it's up to the members.
Go ahead, please.
I would have to agree with Ms. Porterfield. I think it was highlighted that not everyone is going to agree, but very much these are changes that these individuals within these households, where to Mr. Toro's point, they're going to have that bump in. That is going to be a change they're going to have to live with for as long as they're residents in that location. So although I'm confident that these take into consideration a lot of the concerns that were given to the council, I again think it is important for us to be transparent and making sure we have the opportunity for people to voice their opinion should they have them. But again, if there's not going to be a significant disruption in the project, which you're saying it won't be, I think it is something that we should take advantage of.
And I think that's what Mr. Walling addressed. There is not a significant impact on this project by putting this parking there on that side. And majority of the residents wanted that parking there on that side, based on the conversation we'll be having back and forth. Go ahead, please.
But I would say, what is your confidence in the distribution means for getting people that information? Because I would say if it is even lacking one, I would tell you if I didn't hear that and there was an individual who came before the council and said I wasn't aware of the information, I think definitely making sure there's opportunities for everyone to ensure the information is received in a timely manner. And then again, I just want to point out that 2 weeks is not at a cost to the project.
Any other discussion? Go ahead, please.
I'm willing to do what we did before, is to actually, unless you've already done it to the entire street, I know it took us like maybe an hour when we did it collectively, to walk again with this new plan and, just give it to everyone so they could have it in front of them. I just like always to err on the side of safety, caution.
Any other discussion? Seeing none, we'll then hold this, because it doesn't seem like we can move forward. So we'll hold this for 2 weeks.
Don't we have to, I'm sorry, do we have to call for more public?
You can have a
Yeah.
resolution for public hearing in 2
Oh,
weeks
sorry,
and
yeah.
do final consideration that same night.
Okay.
Oh, you have to make 2 or 1.
We should just have,
2 motions or one?
A resolution calling for a public hearing on the concept D for this Central Parkway sidewalk improvement program.
Yep, no, ma'am.
Thank you.
You hold it?
There's someone.
Second, all in favor? Aye.
and then final consideration of the ordinance that same.
Okay.
A motion to consider,
And That will be final consideration when you put the agenda together for that evening. It will be marked as final consideration unless you hear something at that public hearing, then you can always pull it. But if the ordinance that's already been posted would be voted on that same night.
Okay. Okay, any other business for finance?
Excuse me, I just want to be clear, do we need another motion for that one or no, Mr.?
No, because final consideration, the ordinance is already there.
Any other business for finance?
I just want to thank Mr. Wallen for the work and for Mr. Luderer and for, I know this has been a long process. I was looking at my documents from 2021, so I'm glad to say in 2024 that project is actually moving forward. So thank you for all of your work on this, and I hope all the residents are happy.
Voting on the same night.
Any other business for finance? Motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye, thank you.
I'd like to call to order the Public Safety Committee. We have one item on the agenda tonight that is a review of the amendments of the City Code, Chapter 93, Section 6, entitled Civilian Police Review Board to modify the manner of appointing vacancies to the Civilian Police Review Board. We had a public hearing last week, and I would like to turn it over to Mr. Bryan.
Mr. Chairman, if there's no amendments to or markups to the proposed legislation, you can move that on for final consideration next Monday night.
Were there any other comments
Yes.
or questions from the, Mr. Mayor?
The one thing I noticed, I caught it originally said the Schenectady Chamber doesn't exist anymore. It's been merged into the capital region chamber, so it's just to change that one word is in terms of a recommending group.
Since it's in keeping with it's a housekeeping type amendment, you don't need another public hearing on it because it's just reflecting the change of that particular organization. But if there's no change to the proposed text as far as the appointment is concerned, then we can go forward and I'll make an amendment to the proposed ordinance correcting that one organization's name.
Okay. Any other questions or comments? Hearing none, may I have a motion to proceed with the amendment from the mayor?
So moved.
Second, all in favor?
Aye.
Are there any other items to follow public safety? Hearing none, may I have a motion for adjournment?
So moved.
Second, you're adjourned. Or all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
We are adjourned.
I'd like to call to order City Development and Planning. We have 13 items on the agenda. The first one is to follow up ARPA, Ms. Carver. Hello again.
Good evening again. Since we last met, the Cocoa House contract has been signed by the mayor and is awaiting signature from Cocoa House administrators. BC&I Hamilton Hill contract is still pending the mayor's review. The Electric City Co-op, as they said in their presentations, they're still missing site and some of the documents to prove the leverage funding, so that's pending. The additional updates that I have for you are just up for discussion. The YWCA, the Schenectady Little League, which Chris Wallen is going to talk about. And I also noted on the documents, the Duree Community Foundation. We received the organizational chart and the itemized budget on 3/11 per the request of council and the mayor. On 3/14, we requested an updated budget to include the fringe benefits, so we're still awaiting those supporting documents.
Is there any other groups else?
There are no other groups. Everybody else is in contract.
Ooh.
I know.
We're seeing light at the end of the tunnel. So, BC&I, Mayor's Review. So, well, YWCA is already on there. So did you want Mr. Wallen to speak to the Oregon Avenue?
I'll do the YMCA first. So the
YM or
YMCA,
YW?
YW,
They're on
sorry.
by themselves, separate. So
Oh, okay, sorry. Okay.
Yeah.
Pools, Little League, tennis, golf, what do we got? It's like a country club here. So, why Little League? This is what we're talking about. I got an email forwarded to me. The email was succinct. It had a list of priorities with anticipated budgets, and I assigned one of our engineers to start getting pricing for it. So we're going to attack it just as a piecemeal. Fencing contractor, roofing contractor, lighting, electrician. I think it'll just be too difficult to do one giant bid with all these things in it because the costs are too small. So it'll be very similar to what was done on Michigan Avenue, which was a wall. We went with someone who built walls. So we're going to get, the fencing will be a little complicated just because it require a bid, over $35,000. So we are going to put together some drawings and put out a fencing bid for that. And then the other three we'll be able to get pricing for because they're all under $35,000. So then we'll start getting quotes from that from some of our local vendors that we use. I can work with Ron Gardner on that to see who contractors he would recommend so that we could try to get it. But the list was pretty detailed, which is what we needed, and it all had cost estimates and it was signed by the board. So that is pretty much exactly what we needed to go forward. So.
How much money are we working with?
Right now, we're working with $175,000, which is enough to complete what they have. The only project that could be a slippery slope is they want to reinstate the back field, which is a lower field that was abandoned several years ago. Reinstating that, it could just be as simple as brush hogging, mowing, getting it down, cleaning it out, but it also could be more involved, depending on how we get it. So we're going to focus on the existing fields and getting them up. The scoreboard, the roofs, and go from there.
So we'll do what we can do for the 175 and then look at reinstating the backfield and what the cost would be?
And Paul had been talking with them to see what our in-house abilities were with that, but I'm going to try to do the other ones that are just to get something going because I know that they feel like they've been slighted. So we want to get that moving in time for the season. That's the other complicated is where we have a hole in the season because baseball season is starting. It might be, we might not be able to tackle it in the spring, but sometimes in the summer there is a little bit of a gap in August usually when everybody stops playing baseball. So that might be the window that we shoot for.
Questions, comments, concerns? Anyone? No? All right. Well, thank you very much. I know that people are going to be happy.
Yep.
Any questions for me?
No, so.
I don't know why. Sorry, City Council, I'm
No.
full of school.
You better stay here with us. So that was the follow-up on the ARPA. Nobody, no questions on the Cocoa House, BCNI is in the mayor. We heard about the Little League. That's it for the follow-up, and you talked about jury, and we're waiting for those documents. So we have all of that. Anybody get questions about that part of it? Okay, because now we're going to move on to item number 2, the YWCA Harbor House.
So I'm bringing this as a revisit. The last meeting, there was not a decision made on lessening the leverage amount requested, so I'm asking City Council to consider that tonight. They roughly have a $7 million match, $20 million match, and they're asking it to be moved to $7 million.
Right. So as everyone recalls, at the last meeting, they did a presentation. I think we were all in agreement that we would move ahead with that, but we didn't bring it into committee to vote it through. So that's what we're doing at this point, to bring it back to the committee so that we can vote it through to lessen their leverage amount. Any questions? I'll
move it.
I'll second it. All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Thank you, Ms. Carver.
Thank you.
The next one is the award bidding contract for the 2024 HVAC.
Paul had a meeting, so I'm going to...
I saw him disappearing, so I was like, I didn't know who was going to pitch it.
Council President, Mayor, City Council, in keeping with the city's purchasing policy, the city of Schenectady went out to bid for HVAC companies to provide maintenance of all the city buildings, all the police stations, the fire stations, Bureau Service, City Hall, and all the service stations. This is kind of like getting a retainer for so that we're on top of the list, so we have a call that come and fix whatever problem we have. There was, I believe, 5 different bids, and this was all put up by our purchasing agent. And you can see our lowest bid was Eckerd's with the different hourly rates for, daily 8 to 4, nights and the weekends. Looks like we're going to be a pretty much of good savings. It's an option. It's a 1-year contract with an option for 2 years if they do well. Eckerd, the company they've done other jobs for the city, especially some of the big jobs like the wastewater treatment plant, North First Street Pump Station and other things, so we know that they're a reputable company. This is a money-saving project, and we're hoping you guys pass this for us.
Any questions, concerns? Entertain a motion?
So moved.
A second, all's in favor?
Aye.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Ferrari. Next we have a ceremonial resolution recognizing Sylvia Jemison for her service to, Next item is appointment to the Board of Assessment Review. I think all of us may have gotten the email that there was, first of all, there was a person that moved from the city, and so therefore was no longer a member of the Board of Assessment Review. And then there's an individual who I'm putting forward. This person actually would put their name forward when the last person, actually the person who just left, was putting the name. Both names were up. So we know that we're going to, in May, begin to start doing the review of the property of assessments. And so it's important that we have someone in that seat. So I'm recommending Renee Bradley to be appointed as a member of the Board of Assessment Review. Any questions, comments, or concerns? Yes.
She had definitely a most impressive resume. So, so my question is, so I personally didn't know that the spot was open. Is there time to let other individuals submit names?
Well, when we sent out the thing on the ethics, he came back and said, so everyone got that email that said, I'm no longer this person, I'm no longer on the board.
Yes.
So everyone did receive that.
Yes, we did.
So what I'm saying is, we knew there was opening. The time is of the essence.
Right.
And again, it's open for discussion, but this is an individual that wanted to be on when the previous person left. Do you have an objection to this individual?
I do not.
Oh.
Just asking if there's time to suggest other individuals at this time.
I would say with the time constraint, we should have to move forward because whoever gets chosen has to also be trained to do that.
Understood. Yes, the review's coming up.
Any other discussion or concerns? Yes.
Just to clarify, that's for the 5-year term. It was an expired term.
Yes, it was an expired term.
It would be the full 5-year term.
Yes, because he didn't expire. His term expired.
Right.
And then he also moved. We got something saying they were going to reappoint him, but then when he answered his ethics email, he's like, can't reappoint me, I don't live here.
Okay. So it'll be 5 years. Okay.
Yes.
Thank you.
In that case, I'll ask for a motion.
So moved.
I'll second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, the next one is a ceremonial resolution for Sylvia Jemison for her service to the city of Schenectady. As you probably all got the invitation that Ms. Jemison is no longer, is going to be retiring. Her life stays towards the end of the month, 28th, there's a party for her. And so, as we kind of learned from Mr. Griffin, that generally when things happen, there aren't resolutions. So we know better, now we're going to do better. So we'd like to do a resolution for Ms. Jemison for her service to the city of Schenectady. Any questions? Entertain a motion?
So moved.
I'll second. All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. The next one is ceremonial resolution for Pearl Tucker Hunter. Some may know her, some may not. A woman who does a lot of community service to the community. She worked at Sikkim. She currently has a clothing closet. So I wanted to do this just simply. She's observing a milestone birthday, and I think that it's always important when we call people out for the work that they do in the community. And I encourage other council members to do this as well. It's often that people get recognized as people that everybody knows. this is somebody that many people know, but maybe not everyone knows. So I was thinking about something, and we'll do this as an aside, about doing something called like Heroes of the Community kind of recognition every so often, but that's just me and how I just like to support people. So, but at this time, I'd like to put forth a resolution for Ms. Tucker Hunter. Any questions or concerns or even quick questions about her that I can answer? All right, she's just an all-rounded person. That's my answer. Entertain a motion.
So moved.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
And then the next one is a ceremonial resolution recognizing Holi Pagwa, the Hindu Spring Festival. Mr. Muthuvaran.
Yeah, thank you. Once again, we're asking, I'm requesting a CR to recognize the Hindu Spring Festival. We have done this over the last several years, and we're here once again asking for this recognition.
Right. So, Mr. Muthuvaran, are they going to come and dance or do anything for us?
Well, I will get back to you on that.
We have the Irish dancers, so you know, just wondering.
I'm not in that capacity to say that.
Okay. Yes.
I just wanted to welcome Mr. Muthuvaran. If he wanted to dance for us, he can definitely. We
Okay.
would extend that invitation to you as well.
We would like to have our city council.
I'll entertain a motion.
So,
I'll second. All's in favor? All right, we do, I'm kind of trying to like stay with the ARPA stuff, so I kind of want to bring in, if we're going to move forward on any of the discussion that we took place. So I'd like to move that right here. We heard from the Electric City Co-op, and we heard from Carver, and we know with the Empowerment Center, there's more information that's going to be needed before anything can be done. So at this point in time, I'd like to discuss the two presentations that we heard and what their requests are and what we want to do with it. We don't want to make have the same thing happen that happened with the YW where it slipped through the cracks. So at this point in time, I'd like to have those things discussed under city development and planning, and whether or not we're going to move forward with the asks from those groups. So discussion. Yes, Mr. Troy.
At this point in time, hearing everything this evening, I'm not prepared to act on anything at this point. I'd like more time to digest what I heard. I took all kinds of notes, so I'm really not ready tonight to speak on that.
Okay.
I'm sorry?
I'm lost for either one or
Either one,
Okay.
absolutely, yeah.
Any other? Mr. Williams.
Well, it's essentially what that does for the Electric City Co-op is that it's giving them an extension, like, although we're not calling it that by delaying the conversation. However, for the Carver Community Center, it is at the expense of their efforts because they're not able to proceed forward without a determination from the council. That's what I understood. Is that correct?
I understood that as well.
Yeah.
So let's take them one at a time. So let's start with the Electric City Food Co-op. So you're saying that you don't feel like you have enough information to ask for.
I have a lot of information that they provided this evening, but there's, I'll just listen to what the other council members have to say this evening regarding it.
So they're asking for a 6-month extension, and you're not comfortable at giving
But
them
they're
an
also
extension.
asking to
Lower their match.
lower their match. They were asking for 6 months. He was willing to go to 5 months. You were thinking more 3 months, I think. So again, there's just a lot that I'm not ready to discuss at this point.
Any other council? Is your hand up? Is your pen moving around?
So I'll take the opportunity to say, well, as far as Electric City Co-op, I can understand some of the concerns that Councilman Duterte is bringing forth. I think that based on, I think what they're asking for is pretty much just an extension, and that extension still would provide us time if we had to reallocate funds, as well as the fact that in lowering their match, which I think we just did with the Y, because we understand that was just it was a bit drastic. So I think that I would personally, I'm prepared to support them and both their asks tonight personally. But I understand if any council members have any other reservations.
Sorry.
Oh, sorry, Mr. Muthuvaran.
Electricity Co-op, we had the opportunity to listen from their membership. We also had the opportunity to listen from Metroplex, and they kind of like the timeline in terms of how much more time they needed to move this forward, to get the lease agreement in place. I think they're at that point where they need some more time just to get that paperwork in and executed. I mean, I listen to both sides, and I am willing to support a 4-month extension.
Okay.
Based on information I received, based on Metroplex commitment that this is going to happen within, 3 to 4 months already. So I'm willing to support that, an extension.
Of 4 months?
4 months.
Okay. I would support that as well. It's not the 6 months they asked for, but as you heard me say to them, that we don't have a lot of time. And if this can't happen, then we would just have to, we'd have to bring that money back. And there's Mr. Ferrari looking like waiting for any money that's coming back.
Water wells.
So I also am willing to give them the 4-month extension. And the other part of it is lowering the match. So we'd have to make sure that we're comfortable with that as well. Mr. Williams?
I would say my only response to that is that they were very clear in that they were asking for the 5 months, and then worrying whether that was enough time to proceed with the site plans or site discussions. I would like to say, like, I don't take lightly having a representative from Metroplex here, and it seemed like they were very confident in where the project was, and then also understanding of the timelines that we're against. So I very much appreciated the risk and then benefit timetables that were both there, but I was not in favor of the 6 months, I think, in what seems to be the common theme. But to me, it definitely seemed apparent that 5 months was the minimum time.
Just to be clear, Mr. Cetek did say 4.
Or did he?
Yes, he did. Is there something you want to add to this?
No, just don't drag him into this. He's sitting
I'm
quiet.
not as familiar with the project. If you have any questions?
So you're, yes, Mr. Toro?
Eric Johnson did ask for 5.
I know.
Yes.
Just, and yes, and Mr. Cetek said 4. So do we meet in the middle and make it 4.5? I guess it becomes a question.
No, I'm sticking with 4 months.
Okay, we got 4 over there. You have a question?
Yeah, I would just think if I don't know what the value is of splitting it there. I mean, if 6 months, as our timeline is approaching, if the council feels that that's too much time, then I think that the right thing to do would be to at least grant the 5 months. And I think that they were saying 5 months with the understanding that they're going to try to get it done, but before that 5-month time period. So I would just caution us not to kind of split hairs and position them in a place that they can't get it done in the time, and then they have to come back again. So I think that right, and part of being that there's no opportunity for them to do that, I would say that it will kind of compel us a little more to go to 5 months. So just think about that.
Well, that's where so Mr. Mutivaran, this is the committee it's in, has said 4 months is as close as he can get to 6. Am I correct?
That is correct, yes.
So then we would have no choice, because it's 6 months, or it's because it's 4 months, or because we don't have a third person here, so we'd have to both agree on the 4 months. So. Are you willing to make that motion? Unless there's more discussion around this, I would entertain the 4 months.
Yes, I
more discussion?
intend to move that.
Yes.
Yeah, Madam President, it's a 4-month extension, and then there's are you also putting in what the match is as well as far as that same motion? So it would be part of all the same resolution?
Yes.
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 And that number is, what's the number that you're looking at?
I thought I wrote it down. I'm sorry, do you have it? 3 million, I think. Was it 3? 1.8, okay, yep. Yep. 1.8. No, 1.8 is what I have here. You're right. 1.8.
So lowering the match from...
What was the match? And Ms. Carter's gone.
Oh,
It was
okay.
5.7.
Okay.
Okay, so it's 5.7 to 1.8 with a 4-month extension. That's the resolution.
That's correct.
Well, they were representing they were getting 3 million from the county, so it's, that money would have to be there also, and then the gap, what they would work with the developer would be roughly the 1.8 million.
Right.
Yes.
So is that the motion?
Yes.
Yeah, moving forward? All right, I'll second it. All's in favor?
Aye.
Okay, we'll move on to the Carver Cooperative Community Center. So, I heard the presentation. And so their ask was to have ownership of the building returned, to continue with the 1.25 million in funding and partnership from the city. And I open that up for discussion. Mr. Mutamera.
Yeah. Suggesting that we hold off on making any allocation at this point in time. Because first of all, they are not a registered entity at this point in time, so I don't know how we can do business with them.
Okay.
And we have to transfer the property back, and I'm not sure where we are in terms of the original reverted clause back from the Miracle and Craig to the city, and then we have to transfer that building back to this legal entity, which is not created today. So I think we just need to give them time to make that happen in the next couple of weeks, they promise, and then we can revisit it at that point in time.
Okay.
Because I don't think we should move forward legally at this point in time, because there is no legal entity.
That makes sense. Ms. Barash, could you just tell us where we are in terms of the building?
It's been deposited for recording. I can take a look into tomorrow if we've received that back.
All right, thank you. All right, so I agree with that. We do need to make sure it's a legal entity. We kind of ran into that problem down at the stockade, so we don't want to have that again. Oh, thought you were raising your hand. See, don't move your hands.
Yes, no.
Right? So we would just wait and ask them to come back in 2 weeks, or we can actually have Ms. Carver reach out when they've gotten their legal entity decided and covered and all of that in place. They can come back and let us know that.
Yeah, that's what I was recommending.
Okay.
Once that is in place, they can just let us know, and we can then have that back on the agenda.
All right.
You can get information to Mr. Toro's point.
Yes, Mayor.
In the other aspect, they're still working on the numbers that were bid a while ago. So I think we have to approach that with some level of caution, because that's going to probably have to go back out to bid. And we're at the $1.2 million from the city's perspective. The numbers are really a little over $3 million. And I'm skeptical of what they're outlining. We take the $1.2 million and go in and just do kind of half the project. We want to have all the money lined up, so in fact, we're going to get a building and a program and delivery of services that's really going to actually exist and be able to go forward, and not have a building that's just halfway through a rehab project.
So we're going to ask them to come back up. And one thing that you did mention, how we can help, and I hope that we can help, that the Craig main connection is going to be right there. This building is right on Craig Street. And so how do we leverage any type of funding to assist with that building, since it's right on there and part of the Craig main project, if that's a possibility? And I'm not saying that's a question that needs to be answered right here, right now, but I think it's something that we should really consider in terms of, it looks like we're in the place where we are assisting organizations to make sure that they can do what they need to do. And so if there's an opportunity with the Craig Main project being right there, that we could somehow assist to make this project move forward. As was mentioned, it's on the historic register now, so it's not like we just can run in there and tear it down. So, you know, those concerns we have to keep in mind as well, so, yes.
I think some of the concerns with the previous project managers was just wanting to have more structure, and I think that was very well presented today. I think in the 1 month that they've been able to prepare, I was truly, I valued what work they were able to do, and then also the understanding of they weren't starting from zero, they were continuing on the work that was already established. So part of my hope is that taking this new repackaged energy and then presenting that to some local partners, I think that puts them in a very different place. But very much to the mayor's point, I would hate for us to half fund a project and then we have a bigger issue come winter with now we are committed, how do we finish this? But I definitely am very optimistic, but we need to make sure that there is an appropriate plan in place to make sure they have the full funding. So.
All right, so we're going to just wait on that. We have Ms. Carver.
Yes.
Okay. And I think we all agree with the empowerment center. These need a lot more information in terms of what the ask is, what the plan is, and all of that from our affirmative action officer. All right, so then let's move on to item number 8, 1675 Watt Street utility easement. Ms. Brosh.
Mayor McCarthy's going to talk about it.
Okay, beg pardon?
This is a lot. Is everybody familiar with where it is? Across from the superpower at the corner of Watt and Duane. That was originally a pond that was filled in as part of some work. A retention pond that was built in the Woodlawn Preserve. There's a culvert that runs through there. I can't remember if it's 6 or 8 feet in diameter, really big pipe. And so the current lot is owned by the Industrial Development Agency. They have a proposal for the site, and this would give an easement across the site, delineating the drainage pipe that goes underground. David, if you have anything else on that.
Come on. Here. Thank you.
I'm the IDA today. Scott was Metroplex. And everything the mayor, just to keep going with what the mayor was saying, the IDA's owned this since the 90s. It was made into a parking lot. It hasn't been used since I've been here over 10 plus years. The city, when they reconfigured the roadway and the pond, they didn't provide the city the easement for the infrastructure. So we've owned it with your infrastructure going through it. We have a company that's looking to do a storage facility there. It's a proposal that fits well with movable storage units on the area of the easement. They're interested in developing the site, get it back on the tax rolls for the first time. We want to make sure we're preserving the city's infrastructure so that you have your rights to enter it, maintain it, make improvements. It's something that we had the IDA attorneys work on to be favorable towards the city so that you preserve all your rights that you need to access the infrastructure.
And all the documents are there before you. Are there any questions, comments, concerns?
No, I know this.
All right. I'll second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Mayor. There is one item that it's separate in your package to do before we go into executive session. It's regarding the additions to the community benefits agreement that was submitted by the City Council. We discussed it a couple of years ago. A couple of weeks ago. It feels like years. A couple of weeks ago, and in speaking with the mayor, he says that what we would have to do in order to, at the last meeting, the mayor said he's open to having these additional discussions with West Yard Properties and other parties involved. And so in speaking with him today, he said that in order to even to get to the point where we have a discussion, that what the City Council would need to do is actually move forward a resolution that we wanted to make these amendments to the community benefits agreement that would be that was entered into. This doesn't mean that exactly what is here is what would happen, but these are the items that would be brought forth for discussion. Are any questions about that? So what I'd be looking for this evening is a resolution to actually to say these are the things that we would want to discuss in terms of amending the community benefits agreement.
So we're saying that we need to have a resolution in place before the conversation takes place?
This becomes the formal position of the council.
So, right, I guess what I'm asking more around the order of operations. In other words, there can still be a conversation.
Yes.
Okay.
But this becomes what we've had different people say different things. So it's at this point, in terms of informal conversation, this becomes the formal position of the council by passing the resolution.
Oh, okay. All right. So,
I mean, I would suggest that there's maybe a meeting held, and the conversation happens prior to that, because I think that conversation should really inform some of what we're requesting, and so that would be my thought.
but what the mayor is clearly stating is that conversation will not take place until we formally say, this is what we'd like to have considered. I asked the same question, and am I stating it properly, the way in which you're saying it? So that before we do that, we have to actually say, these are the things that we would like you to consider in the form of a resolution, is what the mayor is saying. Not the conversation, and then not that way, but the resolution has to say, these are the amendments that we'd like to see added to the community benefits agreement. Yes, Mr. Williams.
And I understand, or what I'm hearing from Mr. Farley's point, I think based on how our actions are being dictated that we have to continue in, I think passing the resolution in that manner kind of protects us to ensure that, hey, we're putting forth these ideas or these recommendations, but this in no way, I think, minimizes the importance of having that conversation.
Yes, Mr.
Madam President, perhaps a joint letter, something less than a formal resolution, but something that a letter circulated among the members, and who's ever in favor, say yes, you have all the council members sign that, and then submit that to the mayor.
Is that acceptable? Yeah? Okay. Okay. All right. Mr. Mudavera? I'm sorry, your hand was up or not?
Yeah.
Okay.
I think we should move forward with a resolution, a formal resolution. And so then, bring it to the table and let's discuss it via formal resolution in place. And then start a discussion from then on, something that is more official from the city council.
Well, Mr. O'Brien is saying we could do the letter, and then the resolution would be the amended CBA, right?
No, what I'm saying is, as a joint letter of the
Just a
position
letter?
of the council members, as a joint letter, these are the issues, these are what we want in the agreement. These are the points that we wish to have pointed in the agreement as a point of departure. If at a later point that you feel that you need to underscore that, you can always do a resolution.
Okay.
I'm just offering that for suggestion
All right.
purposes.
Mr. Toro, your hand was up?
Yes. So if we have a resolution or
A joint letter of the
Joint letter,
position,
yeah.
that these are these
So-
points. that we-
right, so that would only let us discuss these five options. Correct?
Yes.
That would only lead to discussion.
Right.
And it would be in the City Planning and Development Committee?
Yes. So let me just reiterate, we talked about this, emails have been sent out, there have been multiple opportunities if there's more than 5 that people wanted to. So this was not a closed discussion, and everyone had an opportunity to state what they wanted. So if this is what the end result was based on the input that was received, because there were opportunities for input. Yes, Mr. Farley.
So again, I think that I appreciate what Corporation Council is sharing. I think that, and let me know, Mr. Mayor, if I'm wrong, the mayor, there has been a lot of conversations that have happened. So I think that a letter will be really clear as to what we are collectively proposing. And I just don't think we should put a resolution in place for something that a letter can do that would then form the resolution. So kind of this is what we're asking officially, and then that allows for that discourse to happen, and then we can move forward with a resolution, an informed resolution at that point.
Yes,
What do we put?
Mr.
The
Mutavera.
resolution is from the city council putting forward this a formal request to open discussion with regards to these 5 points.
Sure, I just didn't know we needed a resolution to do that. I'm still not sure.
Well-
I still don't agree that we need a resolution to do that. How about that? That's
Okay.
what I said.
That's fine. Again, I thought the same way you did. I had a discussion with the mayor, and the mayor says that a resolution is what is needed at this point. I understood, that's exactly, I understand what you're saying, but I had that question. I went to the mayor. He said, we need to state our formal position in the form of a resolution. And so that this does not kick the can down the road any further, I'm willing to move in that direction because time is of the essence. And I mean, I know it's gonna be a while, but we're trying to get this done a little bit quicker. Things turned out differently. Mr. Toro.
Yes, so I wouldn't be in favor of a resolution or whether because the community benefits agreement's already in place and I'm happy and satisfied with what was presented to West Yard Properties LLC. And so that's kind of where I stand on it.
Okay.
Thank you.
Absolutely. You realize that it said nothing about MWBE hiring, so you're not interested in making sure we meet those goals?
Please don't question me on what I...
But that's part of a standard contract.
Right, we heard that the
Yes, but-
contractors
But I'd
have
like
their
to,
own.
yes,
Okay.
but I would
And
really like to
please,
see that in
yes,
there.
I'm happy with what was presented. Thank you.
So I have some concerns, and other council member has concerns, and we put them forward. So-
That's good. Thank you.
So the discussion on the table is, are we moving forward with the resolution or the letter, Mr. Musgrave?
I'm supporting moving forward with the resolution
Okay.
to start a discussion, a formal resolution to discuss this.
Ms.
I want to ask Corporation Counsel for clarity. In other words,
It's how formalized you want to make it. It's how formalized you want to make it. A letter would certainly intend, with the signatures of those members who are signing on to that particular point, those points, it gets the message across to the mayor. The mayor has indicated he would accept such a letter. But if you want to have it a much more formal resolution, that's up to the council as well. It's certainly, it's how formal you want to do that. You do a letter, it can be delivered tomorrow. A resolution, you got to wait till next week. But the points are still there. But it's what you all want to do as far as how you want to proceed. So either way.
Okay. Ms. Williams, your hands up?
I have no issues with a formal resolution.
All right. So at this point in time, this just may point out there's a T missing in the word community benefits agreement on the last line of the top paragraph. So we'll make that correction. So at this time, it seemed the consensus is that we would move forward with passing a formal resolution to present this language in here to amend the community benefits agreement.
So,
Second, all's in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. The final items are for property sales, and therefore we're done in executive session. I need a motion to go into executive session.
so move.
Second, all's in favor?
Aye.
We're in executive session, and members of the public will have to leave.